Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel many a time before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years. They're probably one of the best known Swedish craft breweries these days actually, and they're known mainly for their hazy New England IPAs, and it's another one of those that we're going to have a look at today. So looking forward to this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So for this review, we will head up to Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing Gothenburg beers because it is just channel tradition and all that jazz. And for this review, we are going to return to Stigbergets Bryggeri once again. So this particular beer is called Total Eclipse. It comes in at 7.5% ABV. It's a New England IPA and it's brewed in collaboration with Simply Hops, who are a hop supplier, part of the Bart Haas group, but based in Kent in the southeast of England, and also in collaboration with Baltic Brewing Supplies, who are an online home brewing store based in Estonia. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. Always nice to review new beers from Stigbergets, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. Incidentally, this beer was released as part of the Tillfällig temporary assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 6th of April 2021. So yeah, just a temporary brew this one, but hopefully it's as good as the other ones we've had from Stigbergets before. So yeah, let's get cracking with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Stigbergets Bryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. I'll also put the link down there to Simply Hops and Baltic Brewing Supplies as well, so you can check that out. But there's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stigbergets Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've mentioned to you already, Stigbergets are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up there on the Swedish west coast, and the company was founded by Nils Hultkrantz and Richard Simonsson. So the pair own two bars that share the one kitchen. This is the Bar Kino and the Hagbjörns Cafe, which can be found on Lina Gatan in the city, and these both opened back in 2007, and the building is actually an independent cinema, which I didn't realise until I went and visited it. So if you want to have a little look and see what it looks like, you can check out my out and about video I did at Bar Kino and Hagbjörns Cafe. It was quite fun to go there, and I would recommend that you do sort of the unofficial tap room of Stigbergets and OO Brewing in Gothenburg, so definitely worth checking out. But basically, the idea that they had was that they wanted to brew a few beers that they could sell in the two bars, and then this led to them kegging the beer and selling it to other pubs, and then eventually to bottling the beers, which began in November of 2014. But the original beers were mainly English and German styles, but a little bit later on they started to brew the more American and hoppy styles of beer, and this is where they really made their name. The original head brewer was Ole Andersson. He stayed with them until April of 2017. At which point he went back to his own company that he has still today, OO Brewing, and he's brewing there still. But he was replaced for a short period of time by Barnaby Struve, who was one of the vice presidents at Three Floyds. But it was under Ole Andersson that this brewery really became very well known, with the likes of the GBG Beer Week beer, the Amazing Haze, and of course Ole Andersson also produced the Narangi under the OO brand at the same time as well. And those are three of the cult classic hazy New England IPAs here in Sweden, so check those ones out if you can. But they moved a little bit later on to Partihalarna, where they were brewing 5,000 litre batches at a time, and they were also working on some sour beers in that facility as well. At this point, they also changed their beers from 330 millilitre bottles into 440 millilitre cans. This allowed them to export the beers a lot more widely, and they're quite well known throughout Europe these days. And they've now got a brew team of Ollie Banks, who used to work for Beavertown in London, and also Lucas Munreid, who was previously working with All In Brewing, one of the numerous gypsy breweries operating in the Gothenburg area. But as of summer 2020, they moved into a new brewery in Ringen, which is in the northern part of the city, and they're considering brewing a lambic beer there at the moment, from what I understand. But this new facility seems to be pretty interesting. They're saying that they've got the possibility of having swimming facilities and also a bar there. They were talking about it becoming an experience brewery in the article that I read a little while back, but they also opened up a bar in Stockholm in April of 2020, so you can go and check that out. And they have their own folköl shop in Gothenburg as well. For those of you who don't know, folköl in Sweden is beer that is 3.5% and under, and that can thus be sold in the supermarkets. And you can actually start your own shop in Sweden and sell folköl if you would like to. But yeah, so that is pretty cool. But as I say, if you want to drink these beers on tap in Gothenburg, probably your best place to go is the Bar Kino or the Hagbjörn's Cafe. But as of April 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, these guys have produced around 110 different kinds of beer, and that number will no doubt increase over the next little while. I've got 3 beers coming from these guys in the monthly release. Then you'll see those reviewed over the next little while. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Stigbergets Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this beer then. Really curious to see what it has in store for us. So this one, as you can see, the artwork on this is quite similar to other collaboration beers that we've had from Stigbergets before. They've always got this big dot in the middle, then the brewery names around the outside. It's been a wee while actually since I've seen this particular kind of artwork for them. But like I said, brewed in collaboration with Simply Hops, a hop supplier from Kent in England, part of the Bart Haas group, and also with Baltic Brewing Supplies, who are an online homebrewing supply store, I should say, from Estonia over in the Baltics. But yeah, 440ml can. I think I paid the standard sort of 45 or 50 Swedish kroners for this, so let's say 45, €4.50, about £4 sterling, and then I guess about $5.50 American, something like that. The dollar's gone down a wee bit, of course. But yeah, I couldn't find out exactly what hops were in this one. Unfortunately, which I thought they would have done considering it was brewed with Simply Hops, but apparently not. So we'll just need to see how we go with this one. But let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. A 7.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, let's go for it then and see what we get. Ooh. Hopefully this will be very nice. There we go. Looks the part anyway. There we go, I think that'll do for the moment, and we'll put the rest of it in a little bit later on. So checking this is in line for my OCD, so it's happy. And there we go. So as you can see with this beer, it's poured with a finger of a lovely kind of creamy coloured head on this one. Definitely creamy and not perfect white in this case. But yeah, in terms of the colour, this one's got a lovely kind of, it's almost like a peach juice colour, this one actually. It's got a lovely kind of pale yellowy type vibe to it. You can see there's a good level of haze on this one, which is very nice. But yeah, there's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But yeah, that's kind of to be expected. As far as appearances go, this one is pretty much what you would expect of a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. As I say, one of the lighter ones in terms of colour that I've come across recently, but it's a little bit like a kind of pineapple-y peach juice kind of colour, this one. I always like comparing the New England IPAs to the different fruit juices, because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of. But remember, the colour of these beers is dependent on 1, the type of malts that you use, and 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a darker colour of beer. And the level of haze in a New England IPA like this is dependent mainly on the oats and the wheat composition as part of the malt base, and it just depends. It just varies from brewery to brewery, and beer to beer, in fact, as to what you're going to get there. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this one. Let's have a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on. Oh, that smells very nice. That does smell very, very nice, actually. This hop smells very, very familiar, and I'm going to kick myself because I can't think exactly what hop it is. I always used to love playing Guess the Hops with IPAs, and quite often I used to get it right, but these days my ability in that sense has probably gone down a little bit, because there's just too many hops these days to kind of get it right. So it's better just to kind of focus on the actual aromas that you get, rather than sitting here trying to guess the hops. But yeah, I think in this case it could be something. I think there could be a little bit of mosaic in this one, a little bit of maybe Citra or Simcoe. So it's something like this. It's quite, I think this one The hops in this beer are not anything unfamiliar, I would say. There's something oddly familiar about the hops in this beer. Now, if I knew what it was, I'm sure I would kick myself for not fully recognising it straight away. But yeah, the aroma in this beer is very, very nice. So let's start off with that and break it down properly. So what I'll say straight away about this beer is, on the malty side of things, you can smell that it's quite balanced. For me, a New England IPA can take a few different directions. It can be yeasty and farmhousey, it can be rye leaning and sort of grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and kind of bready, and then you can also get ones that are a little bit more sort of brown sugary, if you like. So for me, this one, when you take the aroma of this in, it's actually got a combination of different things. I do get a good bit of wheaty bitiness out of it, and I can feel that it's a little bit thicker as well, which makes me think about the wheat. So there's a good wheaty presence in this one, definitely. But I also get quite a little bit of, I do also get a nice kind of soft white bready note underneath, which is good. And there's a good little bit of a kind of oaty, creamy element to this beer as well. So I think this one is really interesting in that sense for sure. So yeah, the malty side of this one comes together quite nicely. It's kind of what you'd expect, but yeah, I'd say it's actually quite well balanced, this one. Quite often with a lot of beers, you'll get them leaning towards one kind of more certain way, but I think you've got sort of three in here. I think you've got a good bit of wheaty bitiness, some smoothness from the oats, and a little touch of creaminess, but there's also a nice little bit of a kind of soft bready barley malt character to this one. I also get a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original kind of brown sugary note out of this, which is quite a common thing in New England IPAs these days. That's often the kind of alcohol-y notes. But yeah, the malty base on this one, to be honest, isn't really anything surprising. But the more I smell of the malty side of things, the more I get sweetness out of it. So yeah, okay. So in terms of the hoppiness then, so this beer, for me, on the green side of things, it's got a lovely big bright floral aromaticity to it. I wouldn't describe this one as being overly spicy or anything like that. I wouldn't describe it as being kind of overly spicy and stuff like this, but you know, it's got a little bit of a kind of it's got a nice little bit of grassy zestiness in there as well, and there's a wee tiny little bit of earthiness. But for me, yeah, the green component is overwhelmingly sort of big and floral and aromatic. There's quite a nice depth to it as well. But yeah, a little bit of grassy zestiness and just a wee touch of earthiness in there too. But the fruits are very nice. I have to say the fruity side of the beer is also very nice. There's a good little bit of passion fruit in this one. I'm getting quite a bit of that out of it. So it could just be a bit of citra that's in this, come to think of it. But yeah, nice bit of passion fruit for me. I want to say there's a bit of mango in there as well. It's quite typical. This beer does smell very, very typical of a number of Stigbergets beers that I've had before. And that's the thing, is these days there's so many New England hazies on the market, you can't ask for anything anything more than that they're well crafted, I should say. But yeah, passion fruit definitely, a little bit of a stronger passion fruit, lovely juicy oily mango, maybe a wee bit of a softer tropical fruit note there, but I think the other prominent thing is a nice kind of juicy orange. Could there be a little bit of Amarillo in this one? Could it just be a Citra and Amarillo? I don't know. Or Simcoe and Amarillo could be the other one, or Victoria's Secret and Amarillo. It's got a lovely just juicy orangey character to it, and the oranges are coming across as a little bit more kind of oily in a sense, and that's what's making me wonder about Amarillo. I'm finding the more that I smell of this beer, the more I get a little bit of a kind of orangey component out of it. Especially when you take the aroma in quite deeply. For me, this does have a good orangey note to it, a citrusy orange and an oily orange on the kind of front tip of the nose almost. But yeah, a little bit of tropical fruit in behind it there, passion fruit, juicy mangoes. So yeah, I certainly like how this beer goes about its business for sure. So yeah, I think this works out really nicely. I think it goes together very, very well in terms of its aroma, but you know, quite a straight shooting one, quite similar to what we've had from Stigbergets before. The fruits have a bit more oiliness to them in this one as well, which I think is nice. So very balanced malt base, lovely big kind of floral aromatic green component and a mix of tropical fruit, but I think this one does lean a bit more towards the orangey, oily, citrusy side of things. the more that you drink of it, or the more that you smell of it, I'm sorry. But yeah, let's have a look at this beer then and see how we get on. So this one is the Total Eclipse, a New England hazy IPA coming in at 7.5% ABV from Stigbergets Bryggeri up in Gothenburg in collaboration with how do we say it, with Simply Hops, that's what it is, Simply Hops and Baltic Brewing Supplies. Let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål, cheers, and Tervisex, because there's an Estonian thing in there too. Cheers. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, it's another solid IPA, this one from Stigbergets. Yeah. Yeah, it is, as I was kind of saying, it's quite similar to the other ones we've had from these guys before in recent times. I think we're getting this one in really good condition as well, because it's just got the right level of juiciness and green things to it as well. So yeah, I like that. Definitely like that. So let me just, there we go, OCD is happy. But yeah, it's solid enough, this one. Is it one of the most exciting IPAs that I've had from Stigbergets? Not particularly, but is it well crafted and is it up to Stigbergets standards? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, solid stuff. Solid stuff. Yeah, and it's very well balanced as well. It is kind of like it was in the malt base. It's sorry, the malt base is quite like how I was thinking it would be in the aroma, but it does start to lean a little bit more towards bready sides of things the further that you go. But a very easy drinking one, that it's 7.5%. That's a very easy drinking IPA. So yeah, let's try and break this one down for you a little bit then. Let's do that. So yeah, straight away with this beer, you can feel that nice, soft, white bready quality just blanketing the middle of your palate. So I really like how that goes together. I like how that goes about its business. So yeah, soft, nice, white bready notes there underneath, like I say. And I would say this, the more that I drink of this beer, the more that I would say it's, the more that I would say it becomes quite, it becomes really barley malt leaning, the more that you drink of it actually, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I certainly like that about, this beer. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if it develops anything else, but there's a wee bit of graininess comes out of it too. But yeah, let's focus on that middle third of your palate then. So soft, white bready, malt base in there, which is quite nice. Then on top of that, almost down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel that oaty note, like a sort of powdered oaty quality coming out of this beer, which I think works really well. So yeah, when you take a bigger gulp of this as well, you do get a bit of a nice kind of bitiness to it. But yeah, on top of that oaty note in the centre of your palate, you will get a wee bit of a kind of, you will get a little bit more of a sort of, you get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original, you get a little bit of that Werther's Original kind of butter candy type thing, which is nice. So you can feel that just kind of developing the further you go into the aftertaste with the beer. Definitely, it does build a little bit of sweetness with this one, but overall I would actually say this beer is quite kind of bready leaning. It really leans a little bit more towards the kind of barley malt side of things. So yeah, interesting one this, and that's probably why it comes across as so drinkable actually, because it almost gives you a bit of a kind of crisp white bready base, which I really like. So yeah, not much more we really need to say about the middle third of your palate then. Soft white bready base, but kind of big oaty bit down the kind of middle line of your tongue, and then a wee bit of a sweet butter candy, Werther's Original sort of thing sitting on top of that. But yeah, let's look at that then. So on the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you can feel there's a nice little bit of a kind of breadier thing that kind of builds up. There's a good little bit of a there is a good little bit of a kind of grainy element in there as well. You do get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty quality out of the beer, which I like. So So yeah, that is that develops a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, on the back third of your palate, it's all about the wheat. You start to get a little bit of bitiness out of the wheat. This one, you can really feel that bitiness on that back third of your palate. But on top of that back third of your palate, you can feel the slightly more airy, yeasty components kind of sitting on top of that. So the flavour's a little bit taller. So yeah, as you go from the back of your palate and you move forward, you can feel the flavours like this, and then it gradually just condenses down. As you reach that border region, it condenses down quite sharply, and as you move forward into that, the kind of middle third of your palate, it feels a lot more kind of dense, if you like. So yeah, interesting from that perspective, definitely. So yeah, it's kind of got what you would expect from an IPA in that, but I like the slight wheaty bitiness this beer gets, and that comes out a little bit more the further you go into the aftertaste as well. But I don't think we need to say any more about the malty side of things. It's quite similar to other IPAs we've had from Stigbergets in the past. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate then, there's a nice little bit of earthiness there comes out of this one, but very quickly as you move further forward, it moves to be quite a deep green component there. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it was piney and resinous, but I would say that it does develop, it's more of a kind of bright and slightly spicy floral aromatic note. It builds a little bit of spice as you kind of go further forward in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a wee bit of Columbus in here. I wouldn't be surprised if Columbus is the bittering hop in this one, because it does have just a wee bit of spiciness there. But as you move round, if you go round the front curve of the palate, it's got a nice little bit of a kind of grassy, zesty element to it, which I can really appreciate as well. So yeah, I like that side of the beer, definitely. So the green component just gives the beer that little bit of brightness that you want, actually. But yeah, it certainly works. It certainly works really well. So yeah, I like that for sure. But anyway, on to the fruity side of things. Just sitting there reflecting on the green side of it, because the beer actually does build a little bit of bitterness the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, on that front third of your palate, you get that nice kind of oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. On the border region between middle and front third of your palate, you can feel the sort of breadiness builds up again. You get a little bit of a bread crusty quality there. Then the base of that front third of your palate is quite bready. There's a little bit of greeniness in there as well, actually, but I think the more I drink of this beer, the more I think it's very barley malt leaning rather than being oaty and wheaty in a sense. But yeah, on top of that, you get the nice fruity elements. But yeah, let's look at that fruity side of things then. At the back of that front third of your palate, there's a fairly strong passion fruity element coming out of this one. As you move further forward from that, it starts to develop a little more of an oily mangoey note, and I like that little oily mangoey note, which is, it's quite interesting. So I am wondering about Citra in this because of the pungency of the passion fruit in here, because Citra will give you a little bit of that strong citrusy element to it, if you like, but then it's also got the wee oily mango quality, which I really like as well. So yeah, that side of the beer goes together really nicely. But yeah, the tropical side of things is good. You do get one or two little apricot-y, pineapple-y notes out of it, but yeah, the tropical fruit for me is mainly passion fruit and mango. But yeah, there is a good orangey component to this one as well. So as you move into that front half of your front third of your tongue, it's got a nice big oily orangey character in there. So I do think there's a bit of Amarillo in there as well for sure. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there's Amarillo in this, because you get a real zestiness out of the beer as well. And it wasn't until recently when I had Amarillo again, having not had it in a single hop for quite a long time, you really notice the zestiness. Amarillo really has quite a bit of zest to it, whereas before I'd always just thought it was quite oily rather than anything. But you can pick up a bit of this, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's Amarillo in this. There's something just really familiar about this. I think this is something simple like Citra and Amarillo. Wouldn't be surprised about it. But yeah, it's got a really nice balance between oiliness and juiciness, actually. So the fruity side of the beer, I think, works together really, really well. But you can feel as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, there's a little bit of a real zest to it. But yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste, more of that oily and juicy orangey quality comes out of the beer, and I really like how that side of things goes together with this beer. So thumbs up to Stigbergets for this one. It's quite a straight shooting beer, this one. but it's well crafted, as you always usually get from these guys. So yeah, quite a barley malt leaning one as well, definitely. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. So yeah, let's round off with the mouthfeel then. So mid-bodied beer, no doubt about that. Carbonation is very smooth, as you'd expect. There's a little bit of that clean, sort of oily kind of vibe to it, which I like. And then you've also just got a little bit of kind of creaminess in there as well. It does get a little bit more creamy the more you drink of it too, which is interesting. But yeah, in terms of hoppy bitterness and stuff, I think this one could well be about 40 IBUs rather than 30. It does develop a little bit of bitterness the more that you drink of it. So yeah, it's got a nice 40 IBU sort of bitterness to it, I think. Malt base, really smooth, a little bit sweet, I think, and it develops a bit of sweetness the further you go into it, but very smooth and quite grainy. Then you've got just a little bit of the fruitiness in this is nice, a good balance between oily, juicy, and it just develops a little bit of zestiness the further you go into the aftertaste as well. And I think the bitterness and the zestiness of this beer just kind of go together really nicely. So yeah, I think that summarises this one pretty well. So yeah, quite an old school New England IPA, this one. I think it's a little bit nostalgic in a sense. So it takes you back to the old school kind of barley malt ones, which is interesting. If you go back to like 2015 or so, this one would probably be kind of raved about. But yeah, interesting. I always like reviewing these. Stigbergets are always quite good at showing you the kind of diversity within the New England IPA style. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this one was the Total Eclipse New England IPA, 7.5% ABV from Stigbergets Bryggeri in Gothenburg, brewed in collaboration with Simply Hops from Kent in England, part of the Bart Haas Group, a hop supplier, and Baltic Brewing Supplies, who are based in Estonia, and they seem to be like an online home brewing supply store. But yeah, let's leave it at that then. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share. Pardon me, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Stigbergets, and we'll definitely return to these guys at some point fairly soon. Catch you guys in the next review. Slanja, Skull, cheers, check out my social media, check out Stigbergets Bryggeri and the other guys. You'll find all the links in the description below. Catch you very soon.